The Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog Fantasy. Get a first-time deposit match of up to $100 with code MAYO at Underdog Fantasy. Go do that right now because, it's going to be a brand new world for us on the Pat Mayo Experience, but I'm working to put together a Pat Mayo Experience listeners contest over on Underdog for Major Season, which is going to be pretty awesome. I'm not going to lie to you about that. One of the exciting things about partnering up with Underdog Fantasy, but I'm also going to give away like $5,000. So here's what you need to do. You need to have an Underdog account. So if you don't have one already, go get one right now. Use code MAYO, deposit up to deposit $100. They'll give you a free $100 to go along with it. So once you have an Underdog handle, if you don't have one, go get one, code MAYO. If you already have one, hey, it's all good. You're still eligible to get into this draw. So I believe what it is if we get enough people to sign up using code MAYO or to fill out this survey, there's going to be 5 $1,000 Underdog credit giveaways. All you need to do is click on the description. There is a survey down there. It's a Google form. It takes legit 15 seconds to fill out. You fill it out, boom, you are in that draw. That's all you need to do. We will reveal the winners after the Players' Championship. So you have up until the conclusion, I suppose, or at the start of the Players' Championship in order to do this. Nothing is going to change about the Pat Mayo Experience, except there's going to be more shows. We're going to do some best ball drafts for Major Season. We're going to be doing some entries on Underdog every single day, or at least a few times during the tournament for all the different sports. So please go do that right now. My walkthrough today is going to be powered by FantasyNational.com. FantasyNational.com/Mayo will get you 20% off any of the memberships, and with an elevated event, the Players, the Masters all coming up, now is the time to get on that monthly. Monthly is where you want to be right now with the tournaments that are coming up, because you probably don't care about the Zurich all that much. So FantasyNational.com/Mayo will get you 20% off that monthly membership along with the other one. So please go do that right now, okay? Arnold Palmer Invitational. We'll get to Puerto Rico a little bit later on towards the end of the show. You can always hit the time codes for that. But just the quick things you need to know about API this year. It's going to have a minimum of 69 players, depending on who ends up qualifying after the the Cognizant Classic. Some guys might get on the Aeon 5, the Aeon 10, whatever the hell it might be. Right now, it's a minimum of 69 players. All of the top 55 who are eligible are playing, except for Tony Finau. He is the only one. I guess Mexico was more important to him because he was the defending champion, but he is taking a pass on Bay Hill. There is a cut for this tournament. It's going to be like at Riviera, top 50 in ties. And you think, well, whatever, only 20 guys are going to get cut or around there, whatever. It's not going to be that big of a deal. Just ask anyone at the Riviera who played DraftKings lineups and was like, oh yeah, it's going to be an easy 6-6. Wrong. When the most popular guy, Justin Thomas, misses the cut, not a lot of people have 6-6s. And as is always the case with any of the Florida swing courses where you have this much water in play, there's going to be very popular names who rate out perfectly that you think are super safe, are going to hit a rock and it's going to bounce into the water and they're absolutely screwed and they're going to miss the cut. It just happens. You just saw the carnage at PGA National. I believe the 6-of-6 percentage was 3.9%. I myself actually got a 6-of-6 through in the big 150, and I'm in second place going into the final round. So let's, pray for a hot day. I had a hot day on Saturday. The Run the Sims product for F1, Justin and I did the show on Friday. No one really cared to watch it or listen to it because it was F1. Like, what do I know about F1? Nothing is what I know about F1. But what I do know is I got the Run the Sims package. It took me 20 seconds to optimize my lineups, upload it, and I won both GPPs that were up there. I split it like 30 ways both times with a bunch of people who actually used Run the Sims, but I turned $380 into $3,400. That'll play. I'll do that every single week. Not saying it's going to happen every single week, but it was a nice kickoff to showcase the tools of the Run the Sim package. It's $149 for the year. That's like $6 per race. So if you just want extra action, and F1 is one of the more exploitable DraftKings games and DFS games in general that I would highly recommend the Run the Sims package. Code Mayo gets you 10% off, so it'll be less than $6 a race for the entire season if that's the way that you want to go. So runthesims.com over there as well. But API, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a very strong event. Obviously, we're missing the live guys, but that's no shocker to anyone who pays attention to golf. They don't play on the PGA Tour anymore, so we don't really need to think about them all that much as it pertains to what we're doing this week. So let's jump over to the course. I love Bay Hill, the Arnold Palmer Lodge down just outside of Orlando, and it is a par 72. That is 7,466 yards, Bermuda grass green. 9 of the holes have water. There are 84 bunkers around. It plays as one of the more difficult courses on the PGA Tour. The past 4 winners of this event were Kitayama at -9, Scotty Scheffler at -5, Bryson won. Now, the last 2 were a bit stronger fields. Bryson won at -11, Tyrrell Hatton won at -4, and what was like the absolute carnage weekend of the year. And you probably shouldn't do anything without consulting the weather first. That's submitting lineups, making bets, doing head-to-heads, whatever it might be. Once again, this week, I told Tambo on the show on Wednesday that I'm going to make, and I wrote it in the newsletter as well. The newsletter is still completely free to join down in the description. None of that's going to change. Don't worry, people. Nothing's really going to change except like listeners' leagues are going to be on Underdog now once we get that sorted. So I have the best ball season major not one and done. The best ball season major best ball contest coming up, and we're going to work on like a pretty cool contest for that. But the other thing that I want to do is in the works. I'm working on it with it right now, and I think it's going to be pretty awesome for people that don't want to spend all the time in the world doing research but can win some big cash week to week and in a season-long contest going forward for PGA, and hopefully that transfers over to NFL as well. But we've seen some big comebacks here. I thought the Kitayama had it blown last year. He took that triple bogey on number 9 when he got his ball wedged in, got no relief, but he just had steel running through his veins and was able to come out on top of a lot of big names on that leaderboard. Now, if Scotty Scheffler was just able to putt, he lost a stroke putting, then it would have been fine for him. But he won at -5 the year before. He kind of staged a weekend comeback. Bryson did the same. Hatton shot over par on both rounds on the weekend, but everyone did. Only Matthew Fitzpatrick broke 70 on the weekend in 2020, so that was that year. Then you had Rory and Molinari won the 2 years before, and they staged huge comebacks on Sunday. They just got the putter rolling, both shot 64s, and they were, I actually think Rory may have shot a 63, 62, something crazy like that. He gained like 6 strokes putting in the final round alone. Dude just couldn't miss. I remember watching that from Mexico. Just one of those memories that get etched into your mind. Tiger won here a bunch of times. This used to be the Matt Every Open. He won back-to-back years in 2014, 2015, but it had been dominated by and large by international players. Now, it has been 3 straight Americans have won. That broke up the Hatton, Molinari, Leishman, Day, Rory type of run. And this used to be a spot where a lot of the Euros, they would come over and either make their first start at PGA National or at Bay Hill in the run-up to the Masters and the match play and the players. And they would play the first part of the season on the DP World Tour. That's no longer the case anymore. They might play 1 or maybe 2 of the Middle East swing events, but then they get their asses over to play in the elevated events, be it what was Pebble this year, but some of them came over to play at Torrey Pines or in Phoenix, wherever it might be. But when you had 2 elevated events at the end of January, beginning of February, it gets most of the people that would have otherwise stayed in Europe to begin the season over quicker. So maybe that's no longer so much of a thing because you get an elevated field and everyone good is actually playing in this event. There's water everywhere at this course. It's only in play on 9 of the holes, but it's one of those circumstances where like the Pete Dye courses kind of mess with your mind a little bit because of you can't see the green or weird elevation changes or bizarre angles. Even the holes that don't have water at Bay Hill, they're going to be in your line of sight. So it's going to mess with your head a little bit. And it's very similar to Riviera a few weeks back that Bay Hill actually plays longer than the scorecard would indicate because of the prevalent water. There's a ton of dog legs. A lot of the holes have more distance to carry than are actually measured on the scorecard, or maybe a forced layup into some spots. So when you consider the average driving distance is 5 yards shorter than the average PGA Tour event, 277 to 283, that's where that comes in. Guys, they can grip it and rip it on a lot of holes. Hell, Bryson tried to drive a par 5 here by taking everything over. Kind of screwed himself on that hole, by the way, as it turns out, because he left himself in just horrible, horrible positions. players are forced to lay up to keep dry or set themselves up for a cleaner look into the green and a better angle. The driving accuracy at Bay Hill, despite all of the wind, is slightly higher than the average tour. And if you don't do that, you're risking paying the price. Like John Daly carded an 18 on the par 5 6th hole here in 1998. Since 1983, number 6 has produced 23 scores in the double digits. That is the most on the PGA Tour by a very large margin. And some of the names that I listed off there, you might kind of think to yourself, Scheffler. I mean, Bryson's a pretty good putter, so was Hatton. But, like, Rory and Molinari aren't, but they spiked that week. Leishman, not very good. Kitayama can be pretty terrible on the greens as well. But one key note that I really noticed when digging through all of the research is that the second lowest made putt percentage between 10 to 15 feet is at Bay Hill. Harbour Town is actually number 1, a place, again, where you see a lot of not historically good putters actually gain on the greens. And this is probably why that's the case, because in your general tournament, when guys are heating up and good putters are making these 12-foot putts, 13-foot putts, that's how you're going to generate your birdies, your par saves, whatever it might be, is that guys just miss a lot from that range here. So the tee to green and the approach especially ends up becoming far more of a factor. You got to make your putts, obviously, but poor putters tend to. Corey Connors is another one who's putted kind of well at this course over the years. You're like, that's kind of strange, but that's probably the reason why. Larger greens as well, 7,500 square feet. Wind is going to be a factor, as I mentioned, and there has been an inordinate amount of international players who do well. So you could think of it in one of two ways. Is it that the strength of field is now stronger, so your top-end players in this field aren't just generally the internationals, or is it because they have a lot of experience on wind-infused courses like this? Longer, not link style whatsoever, but water prevalent, blow-up holes everywhere, wind factoring in and everything, that you're going to have some of your grinder rounds, and you see more of that style of play in Europe versus on the PGA Tour. That could be one of the reasons as well. It could just be a small sample that it's just all coincidence. I don't know. But just these are some of the things that I wanted to look at. Approach has been over 2 times as influential on the top 5 finishers, as off the tee 3 times more impactful than strokes gained around the green. The gap of each of the strokes gained shrinks when you go to the top 20 finishers and the guys that make the cut. But if you look at the winners only, approach is 3 times more impactful than off the tee and over 4 times around the green. So if you're not dialed in with your approach play, then it's going to be pretty tricky, to tell you the truth. It's always an important stat to look at. It's always the most important stat. And it's not always necessarily predictive in that way, but it tends to be more pronounced this week with so many approaches coming from beyond 200 yards. Historically, around 30% of approach shots are going to come from that distance. One of the largest distributions on approach shots on the PGA Tour from over 200 yards. So those are the main things that we're looking at this week, and we can just take a glance over to fantasynational.com and pull up the scorecard for Bay Hill. As I mentioned before, it is the par 72. It is 7,466 yards. When we sort by everything and sort by the par 3s, you're going to notice that they are long. The shortest one is 199 yards. The average length is 217. These are 4 of the 6 toughest holes on the course in terms of generating birdies. They're not the hardest. Like the 231-yard par 3 is the 4th most difficult. Number 17 is the 5th most difficult at 221. But even like the 200-yard one is the 11th most difficult. So it's on the easier side. But in terms of actual birdie rates, when we're thinking about scoring purposes, there's just not a ton of birdies to be generated off these par 3s. You make your par, you pray you don't make a double bogey or a bogey, and be on your way. 4 of the top 9 finishers last season actually lost strokes on the par 3s, and they kind of gained it on the par 5s. That was a bit of an outlier of what we're looking at mainly. The par 4s, 437 yards, is the average distance this time around, and it's what you expect. There are 3 holes measuring 400 yards. There's 400, and let's see here. Let's generate by yardage. There we go. Yeah, there's 2 of them, and there's a 400 yard. So a 382, a 390, and a 400 yard. They're all on the easier side, although 2 of them do play over par. Number 10 plays slightly under par. The birdie percentage, 18, 15, 18. You can do some scoring on these holes. That's generally where the tournaments are won, by scoring on the easier par 4s, generating your birdie opportunities, and even eagle opportunities as it pertains to number 16 on the par 5s, and then just making sure you don't blow up anywhere else. That's been kind of the key. The average length of the par 5s is 558 yards, but there's a really short one in 511 yards. That's number 16, a 5% eagle rate on that hole. If you par number 16, you're not going to have a very good time. It does have a 6% bogey rate to it because there is water surrounding it. You go in the water, you've absolutely screwed yourself for it. But all of the par 5s carry a birdie rate over 30%. Like if you're not doing damage on the par 5s, it's going to be very difficult. Like they can help you balance out a pretty terrible day in terms of making up for a double bogey somewhere along the way. Like no one's going to play. There's going to be very few bogey-free rounds at Bay Hill, put it that way. So you're going to need to generate your birdies along with everything else. And you can even see when we get down to the single round scores, the majority of them are 71. So the big bucket, 70, 71, 72, 73. So 2 under to 1 over is where the biggest bucket is going to be of scores that we've seen time over time. Now, maybe with a stronger field, maybe that leans a little bit better, but it all depends on the conditions as well. But you've seen some pretty low rounds here, 64, 65, 66, 67s. They're all out here, as are some of the bigger numbers. So we're going to get a pretty wide distribution. Looking at the cut line over the years, +3, +4, +3, +4. Last year, it was still +3. And that was with elevated event status. But as top 50 in ties, that might be down a little bit, but maybe not. Just maybe the distribution will still pull itself out to what it is. Driving accuracy high, green and regulation percentage low, scrambling a little bit tougher than average, but nothing too much out of the ordinary. Generally speaking, about tour average for 3-putt percentage, and average driving distance down, as I mentioned before, although the driving accuracy is going to be up from that regard. And the putting, as mentioned before, is going to be tougher from 10 to 15 feet anywhere else on the PGA Tour except for Harbour Town, which is the most difficult. And to kind of put into perspective that 200 plus approach percentage, now a lot of that has to do with the par 3s, that they're all over 200 yards, but almost 30% of approaches this week are going to come from 200 yards. So the longer irons are really where you want to lean, unless someone's being very aggressive with their drivers. You would think that it's funny because Min Woo Lee is making a run at PGA National right now. Obviously, I don't have him on the card. I bet him it's funny, I bet him and Lowry at Honda last year and just decided to skip them this year. It would have been nice to have those two on the betting card this time around, to at least have some runners in the mix going into Sunday. But I always thought this would be better for Min Woo because you've seen him just take apart the par 5s at PGA National. He's just dominating them, just eagles everywhere. He's getting to everything in 2, just letting it rip with the driver. That he actually seems to be better on the longer holes than the shorter holes, which is just a really weird circumstance to think about. Code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy will get you a first-time deposit match of up to $100. Help out the show and go do that right now. Fill out the survey in the description as well. And I just want to tell you about the Pick'em game. Pick whether your favorite players are going to have higher or lower, whatever the stats are. And the day-by-day PGA ones are a lot of fun. I'm curious to see what they're going to be for the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Hopefully it's what are you going to score on hole number 16. That would be a fun one to throw in. You can pick between 2 and 5 players to build a Pick'em entry. You can potentially win up to 100 times your money. And you can also make rivals picks, which pits 2 players against each other, which is something I'm going to show you in a minute on fantasynational.com with one of the tools that we used to have that we just brought back that is completely revamped. I've been throwing out picks all throughout the weekend, some good, some bad. We were able to pick on Anthony Kim over on the Live Tour until the very final round when he actually went lower than his 74.5 and actually blew up what would have been a 5-leg entry winner at 21-1. But hey, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. It was a winning weekend overall with UFC picks, with Live picks, and with F1 picks and PGA picks. So it was fun to do. I'm guarantee you're going to have a great time playing on Underdog, and you can potentially win yourself that extra $1,000 in credit by taking that survey down in the description right now. Once again, sign up today with promo code Mayo, get your first deposit doubled up to $100, as well as an instant pick special that'll appear on the main page of your app once you go into it. Before we get too far into the modeling of the course, one thing that I wanted to show you is that Moose finally put the finishing touches on the matchup engine. I know a lot of people love the matchup engine and there's a note from Moose. Sorry about it. It took a while to come back, but when we reverted the site back over, some things got lost in the shuffle and had to be rebuilt. He is finally done doing it. So let's try to figure out what we're doing here in terms of matchups. Everything is set to the Arnold Palmer Invitational, so we'll have to come up with some, I don't know, we'll have to think about, let's say, Ludwig Aubert. So you type in the player that you want. So you type in Ludwig, and we'll make up odds for these guys in a second. Who's probably going to be in his range? Colin Morikawa, let's say. So we'll throw Colin Morikawa, and we'll call each of them minus 105. So you put the VIG in to the simulator as it goes along. Minus 105, 105, and you can do whatever you want that way. Then you can just load the matchup in. So it will give you the historic stats that we have. So we have both the odds in. It actually has Morikawa with their win history. So you have your matchup record, same course, same day, historic win percentage against each other, win percentage excluding ties in that fashion as well, that Morikawa actually tends to win around 53% of the time, but that's over the last 12 months. You can use all of the filters on Fantasy National to figure that out a little bit more. If we go the past 6 months, you can see that even at the same course, same day, Morikawa usually does beat Ludwig Aubert at a 60% clip, albeit a very small sample once we think about that. And we can go past 2 years as well, see if that changes anything. But I guess Aubert hasn't been around long enough to really dictate a full complement of matchups because it's still 9-8-2 for Colin Morikawa. So it's about a coin flip. So that would make sense. So this probably isn't a good one to go to. But you can put any players in it with the odds that you find from any site possible with the head-to-head simulator on fantasynational.com. You can find that at the very top of the site, along with the rolling models, the tournament history, the live stats, the ownership projections, whatever it might be. You're at the matchup engine up there right now. So let's dig into the field a little bit. As I mentioned before, it is, and there's my rolling model right now. It's everyone. Everyone besides Tony Finau is playing in this. 69 players, at least a few more could qualify. Top 50 in ties end up making the cut. And you can see what I did for the modeling already. When I go to edit the model, you can see it up on the screen. This is the one I've been using for a very long time, but we can edit this around a little bit to make it maybe a little bit better, because I have approach weighted pretty highly here at 35%, because that is what plays the most, but I do have opportunities gained at 10 and proximity 200 yards plus at 10% as well. Par threes, a lot of that, I mean, that kind of encompasses everything, but that is an approach stat as well. So maybe we don't need to lean so much on strokes gained approach. So let's take that from 35 down to 25, and that just kind of boosts up everything else that we're looking at. Putting at 6%, short game, which is chipping and putting combined at 6%. So we have ourselves covered on the putting front. Par 4 percentage at 12%, opportunities gained 12%, proximity 200 plus 12%, par 3s 200 to 225 at 12%, and strokes gained off the tee at 12%. I'm going to boost up strokes gained off the tee a little bit more. We'll call that 16%, just because that was shown to be not obviously as strong as strokes gained approach, but it was second on the list of the strokes gained numbers, so it should be weighted in that fashion. So I've just messed with it just a little bit so we can see what our results are going to be for the field on first look. And there he is, Ludwig Aubert, number one. This is where we saw him for the first time a year ago. I remember Cuss complaining that they were showing him on TV, and funny, his POA putting splits now he's gaining 0.5 per round. People were like up in arms at Torrey Pines because he 3-putted from like 5 feet, which a lot of people did that week. But it turns out that, although it's a very small sample, I think it's like 2 tournaments worth of data or 3 tournaments worth of data right now for his putting splits on POA, but he's just doing really well. Let's see, yeah, he gained at Genesis, he gained at Pebble Beach, and he actually did game at Farmers on the South Course on POA Green. So the putting has been really good. The approach has been really good. The driving, very rarely does he lose off the tee, but he's done it twice so far this season after not doing it anywhere except for this tournament last year, 2023. You can see he gained almost 5 strokes putting on the green. The chipping was bad. The driving was bad. The approach was okay. A lot actually very similar to what we saw I would probably say at Sony, where that's kind of a course that takes driver out of his hand. I mean, it's hard not to like him at a lot of courses, but back on Bermuda, he got his win on Bermuda at the RSM. If he can just go full throttle here, it's going to be a good look for him. I really hope he comes in like 22 to 1, 25. I mean, hell, I hope he's 100 to 1, but he's probably going to be like 20, 22, 25. That's where he's been in a lot of these events. That I like that a lot. We can see strokes gained off the tee. He's still, in the past, what are we at? 24 rounds. He's 11th in this field, best from the key par 3 range, third in opportunities gained, third in par 4 scoring anyway. Everything is going well except for the par 5s. Don't know why the par 5, and maybe it's because his wedge game just isn't all that great. And that's kind of the spot in his game where he's lacking more so than some of the very elite players. His longer irons are fantastic. The shorter ones are not as good because when you get your Tom Hoagies of the world and your Eric Coles, like they're so deadly from like 125 at him because that's such a big part of their game that's very interesting to see. You see Scotty Scheffler, he's ranked 5th in the modeling, so it's Oberg. I think Oberg is what we're going with. Eventually we'll settle on what this is. So Oberg, Xander, Hoagie, Rory, and Scheffler. So you got 2 winners in there. I feel like Xander had like some real struggles at this course, but maybe I'm misremembering that. Let's see. Arnold Palmer Invitational. He's played it twice. Yeah, last year he lost a ton off the tees, putted the lights out at this course, and has not really done anything tee to green. It's been negative tee to green both times that he's played it. Not to say much about that, but everything that he's done recently has been pretty good for Xander Schauffele. See, yeah, 4th, 54th, 9th, 3rd, 10th. Those are his starts so far in 2024. So 4 top 10s. He had a bad AT&T Pebble Beach, like whatever. It was only 3 rounds. He still actually gained pretty well on approach. His approach play has been excellent. His tee to green game was excellent at Genesis. If he can figure out the driver, which he's done so far this season at Bay Hill, it's going to be a pretty good look. And I do think because of the course history, where it's not bad, but it's not good at the same time, that maybe we can get him at a discounted price in terms of the betting market. Like he might come in at like 20. He might be flirting with the 20s, where someone like Cantlay will probably end up a little bit higher, and he'll probably be first round leader and then blow it as the week goes along, because that's what Patrick Cantlay ends up doing. Who else is up here? Burns, Morikawa, Hovland, Eric Cole, Adam Scott, who's into this tournament, one of the best fast green putters, and which this is. We'll build a mixed condition model here in a second. Luke List is also up here. I have remnants in my mind because there has been a Torrey Pines crossover over the years, where Jason Day has won both these events. Justin Rose has won both these events. The Bay Hill and Torrey Pines were 2 of the courses where Tiger won like 7 times each. But you can see with Luke List, putting was great at Riviera. He missed the cut at PGA National this week. That's the Barbasol. Arnold Palmer, yeah, he's had 2 really bad goes on the greens the last 2 years at this course. Minus 6.6 in 2 rounds because he missed the cut, then minus 7.1 in 2 rounds. I don't really know what to think about this because he does have 2 top 10s at this course pre-COVID and gained a ton on approach. So I really don't know where to go with Luke List. People might be off of him because of the putting, and it'll probably make me more inclined to play him and then be like, oh yeah, he just lost 5 strokes in 2 rounds and missed the cut. Of course that happened. But his game is pretty well situated to doing well at this course if the chipping can get back for him. But that's the way that we're looking right now. Bez missed the cut, obviously. Pavon in the mix again. Lowry and Fitz were 2 I was going to look at anyway. And this is more anecdotal than everything with Fitz. We talked a lot about Fitz coming into the week. I used him as my one and done. I bet him outright. But actually, I used Berger as my one and done. He missed the cut. He sucked. But Fitz was having a really bad year before this week. And you could just see it. Like I watched all of his round on Friday and then, bits and pieces of the other rounds as the week went along, and just the striking was back. And like even the commentators were all over it. Now, I wouldn't really trust the commentators fully on a lot of this stuff because whatever they currently see on the screen is obviously they're the greatest people of all time. Just like Russell Henley, greatest putter alive because he made like 2 15-footers in a row. It's like, guy can't miss ever. One of the best putters in the history of the PGA Tour. Not the case, as it turns out, with Russell Henley. But with Fitz, we've just seen him play. I mean, this is one of his jams. 14th, 9th, 10th, 9th, 2nd, the past 5 tries. He puts the lights out on this course. He drives the ball really well. He's been driving the ball really well this week at PGA National. So I don't see a reason to jump off of Fitz now that he's back in more friendly confines. And let's take a look at the weather for a second here. Just wanted to show you what the weather is showing this week. So you have Thursday and Friday. pretty good, like scoring conditions, both those days. Maybe towards the back end of Friday, as it goes right now. Tambo and I will break down the final wind splits on Wednesday to see if there actually is a pronounced wind split. And I've just been doing wind splits anyway, although with only 70 players in the field, you might not actually get an AM and PM wave because everyone's just going to be kind of out on the course right around the same time. There might be like 2 hours of difference between guys, maybe 2.5 hours. So nothing too pronounced. Everyone should get around the same conditions, but it does pick up right now on Friday. But we get to the weekend and carnage! There we go. Average wind speeds of right around 17, 18 for both the days, with gusts, maxing out at 30. That could get even worse, as we've seen at Bay Hill over the years. So another one of those years where guys can blow up on the leaderboard. I would save some bullets if this continues for the week. You don't need to blow your wad on Monday morning. You pick the numbers that you like and you go on your way, but other than that, I do think that there is going to be some value to some more grinder type players, know them when you see them type of thing. I am wondering how Thigala has done at this course, because he popped up in a lot of different putting splits for me. He was bad at the Genesis. And maybe he just kind of blew it all in Phoenix and couldn't get the job done, but the putting has been absolutely stellar so far this year. He's 14th. A year ago. The chipping was bad, which is something normally he's very good at, but the driving and approach were both good. He was able to figure out these greens, much improved from 2022 when he was pretty awful at this course. So maybe we can still ride some form with Thigala coming into play. Who's been like it towards the bottom here? Seamus Power, Ricky Fowler, Nick Dunlap. Dunlap having a good week. So was Ricky Fowler. Lee Hodges, Mac Hughes. Mac Hughes withdrew from PGA National. He might withdraw again from this. Rose has been up and down. Like, Rose just keeps making big numbers. It sucks. And he was someone who played this course amazing through one part of his career. And the year that Bryson won, I believe he withdrew with a back injury, but he used to dominate, third, second, 15th, 9th, third, and he's just been atrocious the past few years at this course. So that's another one to kind of look at, to probably stay away from. I've been trying to ride Justin Rose and pick the time. Sungjae, another one. He missed the cut at PGA National this week, but he's someone who's just had a lot of success at this course. And he's never missed the cut. He's never finished worse than 21st. He has 2 top 3 finishes. But again, like the approach don't lie. And again, this week at Cognizant, he lost on approach. And that's why he's missing the cut over and over. So those are some of the bad names in the model right now. What we can do, though, is build out a mixed condition model to see if we can kind of peg down the types of players that are really good here. And if you go along the left-hand side of fantasynational.com, you can see the splits that we have. So it's always on 100% Bermuda grass greens. The rough is always long. So the first thing we're going to do is click on this feature. I really like this one, the rolling model, and we're going to go to our model itself and Bay Hill. So we're going to load that in, and we're going to add that to the mixed condition model. You can see in my rolling report, I have everything at 17. So let's weight this a little bit differently. We'll give a little bit less to both 4 and 100. We'll weight those the worst of the bunch. And then we'll kind of progressively work up to 24 and try to make those. Because I do think that recent form means more than anything else, even more than course history. But I think this is the proper way to weight it. I've been playing around with this each and every week. So we'll go 9% for the last 4 rounds, 9% for the last 100 rounds. The biggest one is going to be past 24 rounds at 25%. And this is of my actual model that I just built. So it's going to grab all those numbers, put them together, weight them at this percentage. And then, Scotty comes out number 1. And that does have putting splits included. So the number 1 in this mixed condition model, at least this leg of the mixed condition model, the rolling report of our actual model, Scotty, Xander, Ludwig, Hoagie, Sam Burns, top 5. Pavon, List, Rory, Scott, Hovland, still inside the top 10. I want to take a look at Hovland for a second, because this always felt like it was going to be his breakthrough and just never was. Cole, Cantlay, Morikawa, Zalatoris, and Jake Knapp. Jake Knapp kind of has the skills that you want for this course. So we'll just kind of take a look at him. He's having another good run this week. So that's Sungjae. What's Victor been up to? Victor couldn't chip at Genesis. Victor couldn't hit an approach at Century or AT&T. It's been at least it's nice to see him get his ball striking back together at Genesis. Maybe that propels him forward a little bit. When we take a look at his history here, 10th, second after, a series of very poor finishes, but making the cut to start his career, just gains a lot off the tee and a lot on approach here. Hopefully whatever clicked at Riviera can continue to click in. Morikawa, because of he's so good with his long approaches and he's so accurate off the tee, did not work out for him a year ago. Gained over 10 strokes on approach, but the chipping and putting has been atrocious here. So maybe a fade for Colin Morikawa at this course. Will Zalatoris, obviously, we saw remnants of him getting it back together at Torrey Pines. Then boom, he spiked at the Genesis. He's never figured out these greens at all, but the driving and ball striking has been absolutely stellar for him at this course over his 3 years. The chipping has been bad the last 2 years, but overall, someone who's been relatively good around the greens. Now, coming back from injury, he was not good, but he's been, he's gained over a stroke around the greens the past 2 starts. And when we think about, this is I wouldn't say it's a major championship type venue, but at major championships, he's been very good around the greens in general. He's been very good at putting in general. So the harder the course, the better it is for Will Zalatoris. So he's probably going to end up being a play this week. We'll see with Jake Knapp as well. Farmers, Mexico, Phoenix, probably going to have another top 20 at least, maybe another top 5 this week at Honda. So maybe we just keep riding the run. Every time that he is able to hit driver at a course, it's been going very well. Sony doesn't go as well. And I don't know what the hell happened at the Amex, but these are the courses where we want him. It feels like he's going to go busto at some point, but everything is just working too well right now that maybe you do want to be a week early on the bus, but I think a lot of people are thinking that themselves. So that's what the model rank is showing us right now. We're going to add that to the mixed condition model. Bay Hill rolling model, add. So now we're going to go back and we're going to weight that. I'm going to get rid of this one. That's from last week. And so we'll update it for that. And we'll go to strokes gained, just overall. I built just a friendly strokes gained model that has everything in it besides, it has everything in it. So it's just general. We're not looking for overall model rank here. What we want to do, I'm actually going to add tee to green to this. It doesn't really matter what I'm not using this as a model. I'm just using this as see, can we add a stat? Or are we not going to add a stat? We'll just hit cancel on that. Get out of it. Basically, what I want to do with the strokes gain model is take a look at the longer rough. We see 100% long rough. And this is kind of akin to those major championships that I talked about. They cut down the rough a lot at PGA National this week. People were not enthused about that whatsoever. But what we can do is just take a look at strokes gain. In the model, if just long, Scheffler, Xander, Rory, Hovland, Wyndham Clark. Those are your top 5. It's pretty good. Then you got Poston, Glover, Morikawa, Jagger, and Ricky Fowler. But what I want to look at more is just strokes gained in general and take a look at strokes gained total. Scheffler, Clark, Schauffele, Hovland, Rory. So I want to add this one in. We have this over the past 24 rounds of just courses with rough length as long. Is there anyone that really struggles with this? Moore, Dunlap only has 4 rounds. No one cares about that. Pan, Jason Day. Jason Day's won here and at Torrey. It's funny that these courses are now the ones that give him a lot of issues versus earlier in his career when that wasn't so much the case. You see Jenna, although he's in very good form right now, maybe he can click this back. You can see just he hit the struggle bus after his win last year. It seems like it's coming back a little bit, though. For him, he was 10th at this venue last year. That was all chipping and putting. The approach play is actually a lot better right now. If he can start gaining off the tee like he had been throughout the course of last year, maybe Day is a play. His odds will probably get crushed, mainly because of what we've seen from his course history. Whenever you have a win somewhere and you're starting to show some form, then it's just going to affect your odds. Is how it works. So let's go with both. We can do approach too. We can take a look at approach. So approach, Scheffler, Glover, Xander, Hubbard, Hideki, Fowler, Morikawa, Cole, Henley. I don't think Hubbard's going to end up playing his way into the field. He was on the short list to do so. You can see all of a sudden off the tee, Connors is very good in this. He's very good in approach. Although the model rank doesn't have him good overall with all of these numbers because his putting is so terrible and his short game is so terrible and they're overweighted as a part of the model. But I'm not concerned about the model because it's not a real model. It's just so I can see the stats in front of me. So what I'm going to do here is use ball striking. So ball striking in long rough conditions and add that in. So that's going to be a part of the mixed condition model. And we'll start to weigh that out a little bit, and we'll continue to update this as it goes along. Bermuda. So we'll just take both fast and lightning putting Those will be two that we go into. You can see 32% of the time it's fast by average stimp meter, 55% of the time it's lightning. So we'll just split the difference on those. If we go to average score over the past 24 rounds, Pavon in only 6 rounds is doing quite well. So was Jake Knapp, Wyndham Clark, Theegala, Adam Scott, Nikolai Højgaard is up there. Harris English, who had a top 5 at this course last year. Max Homa all of a sudden pops up. I believe Homa has been top 10 at each of the past 2 years of this course. Didn't really do much. I mean, it's okay ball striking. It's nice to see him turn it around a little at Genesis, but Arnold Palmer Invitational, no, in 4 appearances, no finish worse than 24th, 14th, 17th, 10th. But the approach has been off the charts. It's funny because he actually putts very poorly the past 2 years and gained almost 8 strokes putting in 2021. It's funny how that can flip on you. So hopefully that ends up being the Luke List factor with this. So we're going to take putting fast and lightning fast and add that to the mixed condition model. Let's see, where's our putting here? Why is that not popping up? Strokes gained putting. Oh yeah, there it is. It's at the very bottom. I'm an idiot and can't see things. So we're going to add that one in, and we'll weight that a little bit less than both of them, and we'll just keep on rolling with all of this to see how we can end up doing pretty well. We can add Bermuda, fast, and lightning, or we can just do Bermuda by itself. We'll try to weight that. And we'll weight that a little bit less than the other one because there's going to be fewer, and we'll call that 24 rounds again. We'll add putting into the mixed condition model. On average for this one, for fast and lightning plus Bermuda, we're going to look at, let's see, average. We'll take a look at the average, and we'll take a look at putting. And see, Putnam, Jake Knapp, again, that's only 3 rounds for him. Brendan Todd. So Wyndham Clark and Theegala have both persisted through both of these. Green type and green speed. So is Adam Scott. So is Matthew Fitzpatrick. So those are guys. Højgaard, Xander Schauffele up there as well. Poor Bez. No one's going to use Bez next week after everyone used him this week. He's probably going to come second or something like that. Classic Bez. Whenever he's like popular and people want to use him, never the time to use Christian Bezuidenhout. When no one wants to use him at like a longer course, weirdly, that might be the way to go about it. Spieth has been had a lot of success at this course the past 2 years. I think it's back-to-back top 10s or back-to-back top 20s for him. Wonder how he's done it. Chipping, putting, and great approach in 2021. Yeah, T4 in his 2 appearances ever at this tournament. Funny with Spieth, because this is not the type of venue where you think that he would do well, considering he can be so erratic off the tee. But it's been he's only played 3 times so far this season. A 3rd, a 6th, and a 39th, so it hasn't been all doom and gloom for Jordan Spieth here. So I like that a lot. So maybe Spieth is another one that we can get to this week just based on some of the peripheral stats that we've been looking at so far. So we can add in some very generic ones when we kind of look at the overall course conditions. We just cleared all of the filters, and we're just still looking at past 24 rounds. What we can do now is take a look at over 7,400 yards, which is played to 63% of the time, and will play at this year. And we'll extend the sample a little bit. We'll go past 50 rounds for that one to get an overall sample that's a little bit higher. What is past 74? Ludwig Aubert only has 13 rounds on courses over 7,400 yards. He has not played them all that well. I wonder if the average for him ends up being a little bit better. Let's see. Oberg. Yeah, minus per. I wonder what courses those are. You can always click on the rounds to see what courses that's actually pulling from. But he played really well at Farmers. Okay, so Century played poorly. Valero back in the day in 2022. So he just hasn't played a lot of these events. So hopefully Farmers was an indication that he can handle these pretty well, some of these tougher courses. So we'll put in strokes gained total for courses over 7,400 yards on the past 50 rounds. So maybe that's enough. You know what? We should probably throw wind into this just a little bit. So we'll clear all of the parameters that we had set on the left-hand side, and we'll go to, what do we want to say? Scoring relative to par. It's either easy or hard. And it's so much wind related. So maybe we'll just throw wind in here. And try to do it that way. So windy AF and moderate wind. We'll put those 2 factors together, turn those 2 filters on, and we'll do the past. Yeah, 50 rounds sounds pretty good. Who are the best strokes gained total? Scheffler, Xander, Rory. So those are the 3 names that continue to pop up. No shocker in that. And Hovland is up there as well. You see Fitz gets a big boost. Spieth gets a big boost. Wyndham Clark starts to enter the conversation. There's Lowry. There's Connors. There's Scott once again. Sam Burns still up there. Homa and Zalatoris continue. And these aren't just pulling from from the most recent things that we've seen. These are longer term of just wind related. So we can see moderate wind and windy AF. You can see Century Tour Championship, like some of the stuff for Scottie Scheffler goes back to 2022. So it is trying to tell us the story of the past 2 years, basically, of how this works. So we're going to select strokes gained total. Actually, we're going to select strokes gained. Yeah, strokes gained total. We're going to add that in. And it will tell you in your mixed condition model how a lot of this works. So past 50, wind, moderate, windy AF. So we're going to put that at one level. And then we're going to get rid of moderate and just do windy AF, which is 17 miles an hour or higher. Probably good for the showdown. If you're building showdown lineups or trying to find some weekend numbers, maybe one of the ways that you want to go look at that. So it's not a huge sample past 50 rounds, or that is a huge sample. We'll go past 24 rounds of windy AF just because a lot of people don't have enough rounds to qualify because you don't play a lot of rounds in those types of conditions. This is one of the only courses where that happens. See Justin Thomas, Scottie Scheffler, Harris English, Lowry, Sungjae, Hadwin, Cantlay. There's Cantlay again. There's Connors again. There's Spieth again. Hideki all of a sudden enters the conversation. Homa still kicking around. Burns and Zalatoris still kicking around. And there's Højgaard. There's Rory. There's Adam Scott again. Tom Kim makes a big leap up. So we'll go strokes gained total and add that into the mixed condition model for windy AF. And that's probably what we need to do here. So we have the rolling model. That's going to be the most important thing. You know what we can throw in? We can throw in some course history into this. And we'll go past 12 rounds, so past 3 years at this course, or past 3 times each of the players have played it. And we'll just type in Bay Hill, apply course filters, and again, we'll take strokes gained total. Or we could take strokes gained ball striking, since we've seen that's been... So the past 3 years of this course, Connors, Scheffler, Griot, Homa, Morikawa, Zalatoris, Hovland, Cantlay, Rory, Cam Young, Ben An are your best players in just driving and approach play. Strokes gained overall from people's past 3 turns here, Scheffler, Connors, McIlroy, Harris English, Jordan Spieth, Keegan, Fitz, Kitayama, that's only in 1 appearance, Chris Kirk, Max Homa, Victor Hovland, Patrick Cantlay, Cam Young. There's Jason Days pulling up again. Then a little bit more down. Hey, there's Bez. Good for Bez. Zalatoris, Fleetwood, Aberg in his 1 start. Oberg. I'm just going to screw that up perpetually, I think. Adam Scott is somewhere just, slightly above average, but he was a name that continued to pop up. But that's been a constant theme through the modeling so far. I'm trying not to get sucked into betting Adam Scott this week, just because he doesn't win all that often, but like a top 20 play on him, considering he'll probably be like 60-1, might play... Hell, that'll probably pay, like 2-1? That might be the way to do it. On the Best Bet show this week, where if Carson Young can find himself inside the top 40 or 30, whatever it was, I'm going to sweep the board, because Mito came back on... Patrick Reed had me looking like a fool the first round of Live when he actually played really well, and then all of a sudden it reverted back the other way, and he was just terrible in the second 2 rounds, and Mito passed him by 1 stroke on the final day to cash that head-to-head for the bronze pick. Lowry, I think, is going to cash the top 20 for us as the silver pick. We'll see if Carson Young can get it done on Sunday for us. So did I add that in or not? Now I can't remember. Let's see. Nope, wrong button. Edit MCM. So no, I don't have course history in there, but I will put course history in strokes gained total from just Bay Hill past 12 rounds. Now we're cooking with gas here in the mixed condition model. So the way that we're going to try to factor this out is, so the rolling report, I think, is going to be the most important thing that we have. We'll weight that at 25%. The past 24 rounds ball striking in a long rough, we'll put that down around 17%, and we'll put the course history at right around 15%. So everything else that we've had. So we have 2 putting ones. So fast and lightning past 24, no surface indicated. We'll weight that at 9%, and we'll weight the other one at 7%. That is Fast Lightning plus Bermuda. Courses over 7,400 yards, we'll give that the same merit as strokes gained ball striking, so we'll call that 15%. Moderate windy AF wind, well, we don't want to factor this in too much because it's all like random courses and random samples, but we'll weight both those at 5% each, and then course history at 15%. I will include this in my newsletter post on Sunday evening if you want to get your research on it. Again, Mayo Media Substack, free to join. Please go do that, and we'll update the mixed condition model to see how we're doing now. So we'll reload the Bay Hill one and throw that in. So now we can compare model rank versus mixed condition model rank. So MCM versus the actual model to see if Obear rates out very poorly in this. So the model rank has, because I still have Bay Hill on, that's why. Stupid me. Disregard. Let's see. Yeah, Obear is second in the modeling. I was like, yeah, that's a weird jump for him. But he is 18th in the mixed condition. Hoagie is number 1 past 12 rounds, but he is 26th mixed condition. Pavon, 3 in the model, 28th in the mixed condition. Then you have Scheffler and Schauffele, 4th and 5th. They're 1 and 2 in the mixed condition model. We can do this the other way too and look at the mixed condition that we've just generated overall from everything we've seen. It doesn't take the 12 rounds into play. It takes into the rounds that we've indicated in the mixed condition model. Only the model itself is the past 12 rounds. So we can look at mixed condition, Scheffler, Schauffele, Rory, Hovland, Connors, top 5. Connors did make the cut at Honda, so that's one thing to look at. Cantlay, Homa, Spieth, Keegan, Scott, Fleetwood, Fitz, Zalatoris, Burns, English. I think this is the range that we might want to be in here. Harris English has not been playing all that great. Let's see. I remember I had him at Genesis. He played better at Genesis. He's been playing better overall, although a lot of it's been putting and chipping. The approach play was a little bit better, and the driving's been better the past 2 times out. He was bad at Farmers. He was bad at Pebble Beach in general with the approach, but it's nice to see him click a little bit more back up that way. So he rates out well in the mixed condition, but he's 58th in the short-term model rank. Maybe that won't dissuade me. Where do we see? Thigala, 20th and 17th. Morikawa, 19th and 22nd. Oberg, 18th and 2nd. Chris Kirk, 17th and 19th. So 2 guys that are pretty good. Other than that, you see Eric Cole is 30th in the MCM, but 11th in the model rank. He's going to take a hit once we load in the stats from PGA National, I would tend to think. Ben Ann and Jake Knapp both rate very highly in the model itself, but very poorly in the mixed condition modeling. A lot of that for Jake Knapp will have to do with him just not having the required rounds at a lot of places, or one really bad round out of like 3 in terms of something, and that's skewing what's going on with him in the mixed condition model. Ben Ann, he has the required rounds to really fit into this stuff. It's funny because Kitayama, mixed condition, just doesn't do well. I probably should just take a look at, in general, just Windy AF, who are the best players. And we'll do that over the longer term of past 24 rounds and go to just strokes gained in general to see who it is. Strokes gained total, Windy AF, past 24 rounds. Thomas, English, Scheffler. So English is someone I could see making a run on the weekend. Tread water, get yourself through, make the run. Spieth and Connors kind of the same way. I actually thought that Kitayama would be up there. He's someone who just played really well at coastal courses over the course of time, but now he's actually quite near the bottom of the field in this kind of thing. It's funny how perception and stats kind of play with your mind a little bit. But he has done very well at coastal courses. Maybe it's just they haven't been super windy in those. Maybe they've been of moderate wind, not windy wind of 17. Windy wind, listen to me. Just rambling at this point, of 17 miles per hour or higher. Now, it's time to guess the odds for the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Once again, around 70 players, top 50 in ties make the cut. Everyone besides Tony Finau, who is eligible to be playing in this tournament at Bay Hill, is playing in this tournament at Bay Hill. So I actually think they're going to be very similar to what we saw at the Genesis Invitational in terms of odds. So at the Open, Scottie Scheffler is likely to be the favorite. I have him at 7-1. I have Rory at 8-1. Those two as the defined favorites in this tournament. Maybe if Rory doesn't do anything Sunday at PGA National, then he shrinks a little to like 9, maybe 10-1. Or if he storms back and shoots a 61 and wins, then all of a sudden he's the favorite at 6.5-1. But 7 and 8 for Scottie and Rory, they're going to be the two favorites. After that, I have Xander at 14, Victor at 16, Cantlay at 18. Those would be the next 3 for this course in terms of the betting odds. Xander will take a little bit of a hit due to bad course form coming in, but just based on what we saw from his strokes gained and his 4 top 10s and 5 starts so far this season, or is it 5 top 10s and 5 starts? Whatever it is, he's playing great golf right now. That this should be a spot for him, so he will be the third favorite in my mind. Into the 20s, I got Morikawa and Homa at 20-1, Ludwig at 22-1, Thomas and Spieth both at 25-1, and then I have Fleetwood, Zalatoris, and Lowry all at 35-1. Fitzpatrick, Tom Kim, Sam Burns. That's probably too high for Tom Kim, to tell you the truth. You know what? I'll make Tom Kim 45. We'll go with Fitz, Burns, and Cam Young at 40 to 1. Tom Kim and Thigala at 45 to 1. And Jason Day at 50 to 1. Per usual, there's probably a name that I've missed that's going to breach in here. But I do think we're going to see, it's probably Wyndham Clark. Wyndham Clark's probably going to be like 45 to 1 as an opener. And Russell Henley just gets a lot of credit every single week anyway. No matter what the tournament, that he might be 45, 50 to 1 at Open, and then no one will bet him, and then he'll be 60 to 1 by the time that first tee comes off on Thursday. But that's where I'm going with the Guess the Odds right now. But oh no, we are not done, because we are still talking about the Puerto Rico Open, the Grand Reserve Golf Club, Cocoa Beach, 7,506 yards, 72 is par. There's 12 holes with water in play. There's 63 sand traps. It's a very flat course. Past Palom greens. Nico Echeverria won by 2 over Akshay Bhatia at minus 21 a year ago. Other than that, we have Ryan Brehm won by 6 over Max McGreevy in 2022. That's kind of an outlier. Brennan Grace, he's on live now. He won by 1 over Johnny Vegas in 2021. Victor Hovland won in 2020. That was by 1 over Josh Teeter the year before that. And Marty Trainer. So bombers who can putt are what you're looking for here. But this is one of the best fields I think I've ever seen in Portland. This might be the best alternate field event ever in terms of how strong it is. And we'll rebuild a model. I still have my Bay Hill one in here right now. I'm going to play this one more of gut feel, honestly. What I'm looking at for Puerto Rico right now, I'm going to go with Carson Young again. Carson Young led by 3 and 4 shots after round 1 and round 2 last year. He shot back-to-back 1-unders on the weekend, and that just wasn't good enough. Echeverria ended up passing him. Akshay putting a run just to lose to Nico, but it's been a very good run for Carson Young at the moment. The approach play continues to be good. He putted really well on past Palom in Mexico a few weeks back. I think that apparently he's not even in the field, so probably can't bet him. I just assumed that he was going to be. The cut line's been even par the past few years. Daniel Berger is in the field. He was T2 in his only ever appearance here in 2019. Nate Lashley, let me double check that he's in the field. Nasty Nate Lashley was T3 a year ago. He was T8 in 2019, T3 in 2020. He's back-to-back T3s. He has a top 10 streak at this tournament, which is kind of funny to think about. Is Vegas playing? No, Vegas isn't playing. I would have bet Vegas as well. Chan Kim, if he's playing, is another one. Yeah, I will bet Chan Kim next week in this tournament. Michael Kim as well. You can see the strokes gained total leading into this tournament is very good. He's been bad the past 2 weeks, but he had T16 in this tournament. He was 5th in this tournament last year, T16 before. He's been very good in this tournament over the years. We can see if we go to the tournament history who has been good and who hasn't been good in Cocoa Beach over the years. Garrigus has not been good. Trainer hasn't been good since he won. Imagine being second worst in the field in strokes gained total with a win to your credit, counting as a part of that. That's insane. Teeter, Lashley, Brehm, Garnett, Brandon Wu. Brandon Wu is a player with top 10s in each of his past 2 starts, a T3 and T7. Did not play in this tournament last year. Overall, Lashley, Brandon Wu, Bryce Garnett, Ryan Brehm, Michael Kim, Cameron Percy, and Vince Whaley all have at least 2 top 20 finishes in the past 4 years. So if you're looking for course history here against weak fields, that's a potential way that we can look at things. But we can kind of build out what we want to see this week. We're not going to go too in depth on what's happening here. And I do have, it says that Bezadenhout is in the field. I guess he's technically qualified for both right now. We'll see where he ends up going to, but he would be the best right now, and we can scroll down on the left-hand side to see what's really going on, because there's no shot link data from this course. So we only have the stuff to really go off of. It plays easy or average. That's something that we can throw in the mixed condition model. We can apply those filters, so we can build out a new mixed. I mean, I'm not going to build out a new mixed condition model because I don't want to wipe my one away for Bay Hill, the one that I care about the most. But if we just put that in, scoring relative, easy to par, past 24 rounds on easy or average courses. Michael Kim, Bez, Ryu, Kelly Craft, Ben Griffin, Chan Kim is up there as well at number 6. Vijagas, Brandon Wu once again. So maybe, let's see here. Chan Kim, Michael Kim, Brandon Wu. But I mentioned before that there are like a lot of good players in the field this time around. And we can kind of take a look at that. I mean, bombers who can putt, especially on slow surfaces, are probably going to have an edge this week. Reload the page here for us. Puerto Rico field. There we go. And I have my Bay Hill is my default. That's why it keeps coming back up. And we just take a look at scoring stats, or we can take a look at strokes gained stats overall. But you have a lot of, let's see here. Aaron Rye is playing. Mentioned Champ Kim. Daniel Berger is going to be in this field. Adam Long, Kramer Hickok, Rasmus Højgaard is coming in. There are some other Euro players who are in the field as well. Victor Perez is playing. Robert McIntyre is playing in this field. Probably a really good look for Bobby Mack again. I didn't bet him in Mexico. He was great. I bet him at Honda. He made the cut, but it wasn't doing anything for us. Echeverria is actually putting in a decent run at Honda right now as we speak. We'll see if people go back to Sam Stevens, the king of the plus 7,400-yard course. Eric Burns. Eric Burns was someone I had kind of identified earlier in the year. Let's see how he's been doing. The putting was bad, but the approach was good in Mexico. So since his return from injury, he's been, he's made every cut so far. So DraftKings wise, there's probably not going to be like good tournaments for this event, but someone to look at. Goddard doing well in Honda right now. Someone else who just absolutely mashes it off the tee. Gracerman, shout out to Ben Coley for tipping Gracerman this week. Higo, another one, just kind of bombs, can putt from time to time. Endicott, who won Q School, had played a little bit over in the Middle East, along with his PGA Tour card, is someone else that we can look at as well. Big Norm, Semikawa back in the field this time around. Long Dong, Paul Barjon, Aaron Wise. I inquired on Twitter about what the hell happened to Aaron Wise. We haven't seen him since, good Lord, when was the last time we saw Aaron Wise? We saw him last year at the U.S. Open. That was the last time he played. He was horrendous, but guys have come back off injury. I wouldn't expect it week 1 for him, but another interesting name to kind of go along with here. So maybe, it's not the world's greatest field, but for an alternate event, it's much better than maybe we think of in our minds. It's going to be worth paying attention to. So we have Brandon Wu, Chan Kim. Maybe we can dig up someone else here. Maybe Toasty. Toasty might be the way to play this one. We'll see who putts well on past Palom greens. Let's just do that off the hop. We don't have a lot, we don't have a lot of information from these tournaments in particular, be it Corrales in the Dominican Republic, in Puerto Rico. We only have just total strokes gained because those are the only ones that we got for this one. But past Palom, what we can do is we can go Cocoa Beach. We can go Corrales, probably not El Chameleon, El Cardinal we can throw into there, and Vedanta. Just the past Palom greens that you generally see on the PGA Tour to see if there is anyone who just plays those really well in just terms of strokes gained total, since we only have the putting stats from Vedanta and your random other past Palom course. But if we do take a look at who's played these courses well, what do I have past 24? Berger is the best. Now, it's this course, and he came in second, so obviously that's going to work out pretty well for him. Aaron Wise is second. Rasmus Højgaard, Robert McIntyre are the next ones. Really? Maybe it was Nikolai Højgaard who played in one of these jabroni events last year. It was. No, Corral. No, this is just from Corrales. Oh, yeah, because Rasmus, let's see here. Yeah, Rasmus, 18th at Valero. Or, sorry, 6th at Corrales last year. That's what's being included for him. What else do we got on the go in terms of what we want to look at here? Past Palom. Oh, that's because it's just past Palom that I have clicked on. So let's click off of that for a second and just look at these courses in general. Brandon Wu, past 24, ranked the best. Lashley, obviously, and he has all 24 rounds to count. Harry Hall, Cameron Champ. Okay, let's go to the average here. So we've seen Brandon Wu and Chan Kim pop up twice. Berger, Wise, Rasmus Højgaard, if we're just looking at average per round strokes gained total. Robert McIntyre, let's see the Rasmus one. Yeah, Corrales Puttacano was very good there last year. So Chan Kim, Brandon Wu, Sam Stevens is another one. Cameron Champ does pretty well. Harry Hall, Jorge Campillo in his 4 rounds of Mexico did pretty well. I think that's what it was for. Yeah, Mexico. Who else? Michael Kim is up inside the top 20. So is Goddard, so is Damon. Damon had a good run at Corrales once upon a time. You can see Martin Trainer, although at this course in particular, not great. Overall, the multiple courses over the past 24 is actually gaining over a stroke total per round. So those are just kind of the names. Toasty is where? There's Toasty. He has 8 rounds. He's gaining over a half stroke per round. So that's not bad by and large. And he had two really bad rounds in Mexico and one really great round in Mexico. And that was his final round in Mexico last year. He missed the cut this time around, had one bad round, one good round. So he's been alternating a lot. Was bad in Puerto Rico 2 years ago, but I just kind of like the way that he's been playing. Just because he mashes the ball. We see these really low rounds. He has no results really to speak of that matter. He had a top 10 in Mexico, not this time around, the year before. But other than that, it's been bad news for him. But you'd think that he would gain a ton off the tee because he's played longer courses pretty well so far in terms of having spike rounds. And that's what we look at a lot of the times. Let's see if there's a spike percentage. So if we set, let's say we want guys that gain over 2 strokes per round, and see who pops up in that percentage. So, well, if we do past 24 rounds, it's DA points. So who's good out of this mix? It's just a lot of real old dudes who probably accomplished these feats ages ago. And they're at 8%. So spike percentage, the best in the field. Okay, there we are. 75% of his rounds, Rasmus Højgaard. In only 4 rounds, same as Aaron Wise. So over 56% of his rounds, Cameron Champ. So in 9 of his 16 rounds, he has gained more than 2 strokes total on courses like this. Chan Kim, 4 of his 8, he's done that. You got Parker Cootie. I mean, Parker Cootie might win me that $150 GPP this week. So shout out Parker Cootie, better than your brother Pearson. But he's at 50%, so is Campillo. Echeverria in more of a sample at 16 rounds is at 15%. Bobby Mack, only 4 rounds at 2. Sam Stevens, 5 out of 10 at 50%. Daniel Berger, 2 out of 4. So a lot of small sample guys. The best longer sample guys is Brandon Wu, who just, I guess, dominates pass, paddle, and putting. But he's at 46% over 24 rounds. Brem, who's won this tournament, at 46% over 24 rounds as well. Adam Long, Nate Lashley, Wes Bryan, very good. KH Lee. I can't believe KH Lee is now in these tournaments. Justin Suh, they're all at 40%. Harry Hall, Joel Damon, Campos, Goddard, 2 out of 6 rounds, has a spike percentage of over 2%. I was going to try to guess the odds for this tournament, but I have no clue. Højgaard is probably, because I mean, it's even the quote-unquote bad Højgaard, but Rasmus has been very good so far. But he would be the guy that I'd be looking at as probably. Is there someone else who would be the favorite? I mean, if Carson Young joins the field, maybe he ends up being the favorite. Who knows? Daniel Berger will probably be the favorite, and he'll probably be like 18, 20 to 1. But again, Chan Kim for me, Brandon Wu for me, they'll probably be, Brandon Wu will probably be 28 to 1. Chan Kim might like be 45, 50, 60. It all just depends, and different books are probably going to have different values on a lot of these guys for the Puerto Rico Open. We see it with these alt events. No one really puts in that big of an effort to come up with really good odds. They tend to come out a little bit later than everything else. But, oh, you know what? I'm actually going to click back over to Fantasy National for a second, because what I did want to look at, I want to clear all filters and just get off of those courses, sort of the pass, paddle, swing. And I wanted to look at driving distance plus putting, and just see, you know, I'm just going to build that model very quickly. We're going to go driving distance and putting. Those are the 2 things that I'm going to throw into it, just to take a look. Driving distance, putting. Let's weight driving distance. That's probably a little bit more prevalent. We'll go 65, 35. So 65 driving distance, 35, and just see. Past 24 rounds. Goddard, Higo, Champ, Pearson, Cootie, Toasty is up there inside the top 5. Kevin Doherty, I feel like he's been playing well. He was in one of the featured groups this week. I think he was playing with Knapp and someone else. I don't know. He was 38th in Mexico, 50th at the Farmers. Dude's like not bad. No clue who this guy was, but in Mexico, he kind of lit it up a little bit. Can't chip to save his life, but I'm not really too concerned about chipping here. If he can putt on the pass, paddle, and greens, then we might be in business with Kevin Doherty. Big Norm, Big Panda, he's up there as well with the driving distance. Overall, over that time, Justin Suh, maybe it's time for Justin Suh. MJ Duffy is another one. This is where the Fantasy National Simulator, when that gets run, when everything is out, is probably something to look at. And the season-long planner for these events is super huge when you see who's committed to it and who's not committed to it. in terms of the players that you see up on the screen. When we do our best ball drafts for Underdog, this is going to be a very important feature for us once we get into the Myrtle Beach Classic and the CJ Cup to see who's committed to some of these events and who's not committed and who played in them last year, to give us a sense of who might actually be in the fields for these things, because we're going to have to figure that out. For the major season one, it's not going to be that big of a deal because it's only the majors that pop up there. Let's run this back to past 50 to see if we get any sort of different results over this time. And then we can take a look at the overall rolling report as well. This one's just labeled strokes gained. I should probably change the name of that. New model, driving and putting. That's nowhere close to how you spell that. Driving and putting there. If I take my time and do it, then we can do it together. Past 50 rounds. Let's see. Let's reload that in, because I changed the name. Sometimes it gets a bit wonky. We're still putting everything over. And we'll go driving and putting. Boop. Past 50 rounds. Boop. And see who gets up there. So driving distance. It's Goddard, it's Champ, it's Callum Tarrant, maybe Callum Tarrant, NJ Duffy, Higo, Derek Ernst, Matty Schmidt. Someone I liked earlier in the year who had a nice run through the fall. Doherty is up there as well. That's only in 16 rounds. Pearson Cootie, Rasmus Højgaard, Sam Stevens. So that's probably where you want to be looking. These guys that absolutely mash the ball. Now you've seen someone like Nate Lashley do really well. So it's either pure accuracy or lots of distance. Lots of distance, by and large, is where you want to be at. You can see him putting. Higo has been putting really well. Ben Griffin's been putting really well. Victor Perez might be the look here, but he might play himself into Bay Hill if he ends up winning Sunday at PGA National. Let's see if we can do the rolling model with driving and putting, just to see what that gives us. Nah, we can't. There it is. I wonder if we can amend that around. Yeah, with only 2 stats, it's not letting us do it. We'd have to throw something else in, but that's just where we're at. Again, guess the odds. It's going to be out of this world. So it was a brief preview of Puerto Rico. Some of the names that I'm on: Brandon Wu and Chan Kim, Michael Kim, those 3 to start. Probably Higo again, just to see how we're doing. But I'll listen to some other people this week to have some more insightful takes on what's happening down at that course. But that was the quick preview. Underdog. That survey, you could get in 1 of 5 winners winning $1,000, but you need an Underdog account. If you don't have one yet, code Mayo at Underdog. You get a match deposit of up to $100. We'll be migrating the Listeners League over to that. Again, we're still going to have the same shows, just more Underdog content, which just means more shows. I asked everyone to support the shows with the likes and the newsletter. I need you to support the show by signing up to Underdog right now, to using code Mayo and filling out that 15-second survey in the description. If you're a first-time depositor with code Mayo, or you already have an existing Underdog account, fill out the survey, get in that draw, all right? Because I want to bring some of the monies to the people, and Underdog's going to be a sweet partner for us. They are cooking up some fun stuff, some community stuff for us as well, which I think you're all really going to enjoy. FantasyNational.com/Mayo as well to get 20% off all of the stats and all the tools so you can do the research yourself. It's new exciting times on the Pat Mayo Experience. Jeff and I will be back for the bets on Monday. See you then. Pat Mayo.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!